My name is Rahul Verma. I work at the Center for Policy Research. Thank you again for coming in on a Friday evening. The plan is following. I'll make a presentation for 20 minutes, just some initial cut of what 2024 results tell us. And then I have a esteemed set of panelists. I'll get them on stage here. We'll discuss for 40 to 45 minutes and then I'll open up for questions from the audience. And I'm sure like in last 72 hours, you might have seen various analysis and you know what the big picture has happened. So I'm not going to basically get into that, but some of the patterns that we were able to figure out from the data in last 24 hours. So first big thing is, if you look at the map of India at the political constituency level between 2019 and 2024, this political map has changed. There are some constants. For example, if you look at from Gujarat to Odisha, BJP still continues to dominate that region. But in lots of places, you have started seeing the color blue, which means that Congress has improved its position significantly. Last time they had 52 seats, it has become 97. And BJP, which had 303 seats, it has now come down to 240. So first big takeaway is political map of India has changed. 5 years ago, I was standing on the same podium presenting an analysis of 2019 results. And these 5 years, many things have changed. On a better day, we would have served better things with tea and coffee, but you all know how CPR has changed in last 5 years. So in that spirit, we are going to study elections, and I would like to thank all my colleagues at CPR for turning out in such big numbers and everyone who helped me to prepare this presentation. And someone I study elections, but I'm always surprised by elections, and I'm always humbled by the results that come on counting day, because not just because of the big headline numbers, but the little details that it carries. And so I'll start with some caveats. There are going to be some errors in the analysis, but those are going to be minor errors. I don't have an answer to what has happened, but I am going to offer some hypotheses, and this is much more for us to think about what actually happened in 2024. And the reason why political scientists like me get surprised on elections, because we have a framework or a theory to start with, and some of those theories and frameworks get challenged when results come out. And this election has taught me, if no majority is permanent, no ideology is permanent in Indian politics, then certainly no theory can be permanent about Indian voters. We continuously need to update it and learn from it. The wisdom of, collective wisdom of millions of voters, their naiveties and everything basically is involved in these sort of like numbers that we are seeing. So first big picture takeaway of this election is that there is no single overarching narrative or explanation that explains the verdict. Any theory that you can come up with is not going to hold in the neighboring state or the second state. What seems to have happened, and this is where perhaps in your questions and reflections of the panelists we are going to hear more, it seems that confluence of factors in different states have come together to balance, to tilt the balance in favor of one alliance versus the other in certain direction. There are lots of hypotheses that we have learned in last 3 to 4 days. It's not easy to test some of those hypotheses, but I've just listed them and I'll show them why it's difficult to basically arrive at any conclusion. Coalition arithmetic of India alliance seems to have worked especially well in states like UP and Maharashtra, but we don't have an answer that why it didn't work in a state like Bihar, which is neighboring UP. NDA has still managed to hold on to its vote share and even the seats. Similarly, there was lots of conversation, and some people have written about it, that Ab Ki Baar 400 Par offensive of the government in some way had a counter narrative from the opposition parties that Samvidhan Khatre mein hai, and that also took some traction on the ground. So in some places you would find members of scheduled caste and lower caste and poor have been turning against the BJP. But that doesn't explain the pattern everywhere. There was, at least after the first and second phase, when the turnout declined significantly, there was a question on mobilization and whether the turnout had any impact on the results. Conversation on religious polarization. Prime Minister, after first phase, started speaking on Hindu-Muslim axis, and many BJP leaders took cue from it. Of course, when pre-poll surveys had come out in March, late March and early April, everyone had suggested that BJP is going to come back with a bigger majority. That didn't happen, and especially I think pre-poll surveys at that time were picking up the sentiments or the latent sentiments of inauguration of Ram Temple in January 2022. So in some ways, people like me or pollsters, we continue to make some mistakes in our analysis. In 2019, we were underestimating the extent of BJP victory, and in 2024, we sort of overestimated the extent of what they are going to do. There is some conversation on rural distress and especially young men turning away from BJP because there is a lot of unemployment, and pre-poll surveys had picked up this tendency. Every major pre-poll in this country showed that there is serious economic anxiety amongst a large section of population, but in pre-poll surveys, people were still making or preferring BJP as their primary political choice, and at that time our conclusion was perhaps there is economic anxiety, but a large number of voters still repose faith in BJP and Prime Minister Modi, but results tell you something else. There has been conversation on welfare being an important axis of mobilization. Perhaps welfare was being sort of like extended to temper down the problems people are facing from price rise. And there is a lot of conversation on women voters, and we have Ruhi with us. She's going to write a book on women voters. She has traveled across the country talking about them. So some reflections from there. And then, you know, like once elections are over, we have lots of post-hoc explanation, some bordering to conspiracy theory as well. And they might be true, I don't know, that some parties has better candidate nomination strategies and others. There were a lot of local level anti-incumbency against some of the BJP candidates. So some of these hypotheses can be tested, and I have tried to do them. So let me give you a big picture of what happened with BJP. BJP in large number of states, my theory was that across Northwest, BJP is going to make some losses, but those losses are not going to be significant, and they will make serious gains in Eastern Corridor, and BJP is going to cross majority mark. That didn't happen. BJP in the Northwestern Corridor, especially core states of UP and Maharashtra, it lost significantly, and those losses were not just in terms of votes, but also in terms of seats. So UP, Maharashtra, Rajasthan, West Bengal, in all places there were losses, but BJP has been able to make inroads in new territories of Odisha and Telangana. Similarly, Congress, this election in some ways hinged on Congress performance. If Congress was able to challenge BJP in its core states, especially Northwestern Corridor, where you have a BJP versus Congress competition, the expectation was that BJP's tally would come down. In last two elections, in direct Congress versus BJP competition, the strike rate of BJP was around 90 to 95%, meaning that out of 100 seats, BJP had won 90 seats against Congress. In this election, it has changed and improved in favor of Congress, not drastically, but Congress has won around 28% of seats in a direct head-to-head context against BJP. Finally, exit polls also set up in some ways some kind of expectations, and we have Yashwant Deshmukh with us, and this is not the see voter exit polls, but I would hope that he would reflect on where pollsters might have got wrong and what we can do to salvage this. Someone who uses polling data a lot to understand, because for me polling data is not just to make seat forecast and vote estimates, but large changes that are happening in society. So pollsters got a couple of states completely right. Odisha, New Delhi, Bihar, they got it completely right. Telangana, Rajasthan, Karnataka, Haryana, Kerala, moderately right, more or less in the same direction, couple of seats here and there. But they got three states wrong: UP, Bengal and Maharashtra. See, normal expectation in a national election are, from a polling point of view, that there are going to be some errors at the state level, and errors basically will be in different directions. They will cancel out small errors, and you will get roughly around the same number. What seems to be happening in 2024, and that may remind not me, I was too young, but many of you, a 2004 moment, where errors basically got aligned in one direction. BJP even that time was overestimated in all states, and this seemed to have happened even this time. Three states, if you get UP, Bengal and Maharashtra wrong, UP 80 seats, Maharashtra 48 seats, Bengal 42 seats, 160 seats out of 543, and massively wrong, polls are going to estimate things badly. So given that we have, it's not that in every state they were wrong. They were wrong in 3 states, and it should make us think. We know that Bengal is difficult to poll, Maharashtra perhaps was difficult to call this time, but why UP? I don't have any idea why we got polls wrong in UP. Then CSCS, which does sort of like post-poll study, and they have started printing some results in the Hindu. And so I looked at that data. It doesn't tell us at national level what big shifts are taking place, right? Upper caste continues to be solidly behind BJP. Minor losses among upper OBC and scheduled caste, but gains among tribals, which is obvious because BJP is holding on to the Telangana, Odisha and Chhattisgarh belt. But no major sort of like changes even among the economic classes. So if you look at the data from 2014, 2019, 2024, what CSDS survey actually suggests that more or less, even among the poorer segments, the pattern hasn't changed, right? And so big picture, we don't get a sense what seems to be happening. If there is no big shift among the lower caste, if there is no big shift among the poor segments, then what is driving this sort of like anti-incumbency trends in some ways against the BJP? CSDS survey also suggests, and which is surprising to many of us, that for a long period of time, at least I thought, and many of you might have thought, that BJP has a very strong organizational machinery, not just on the ground, but also on the social media. Voters were asked, who contacted you or which party contacted you? It seems that on social media and in door-to-door campaigning, Congress had contacted more voters compared to BJP. Whether this is just like a survey data reflection or it's true on the ground, something reporters and people who had gone on the ground, Rajdeep certainly goes to many states and he has seen elections like now for 3 decades. He should be able to tell us what was happening on the ground in that regard. Finally, there is a conversation, especially after the election results, that perhaps PM Modi's popularity is fading. So survey data from Lokniti actually suggests that in 2004, if you ask in an open-ended question, who should be India's next Prime Minister, that was 36%, rose up to 47% in 2019, and seems to have come down to 41% in 2024. Modi continues to remain the top choice of Prime Minister, but what seems to be happening, that if you compare 2019 and 2024, there is some change. So in 2019, in the CSDS data, among BJP voters, 1/3 said PM Modi as candidate mattered to them. This number has come down to 1/4 in 2024. Similarly, there was a Lok Sabha premium that BJP enjoyed, especially when Prime Minister Modi was on ticket. If you compare vote shares in assembly elections versus Lok Sabha election, that seemed to have halved between 2019 and 2024. And I still don't understand how PM Modi's victory margin in Varanasi declined considerably, right? Like, so all kinds of things happening, but that declining considerably makes us think what has happened. Turnout, if you look at all India pattern, there is basically, so just to tell you, I have mostly used this graphic format, which is sort of scatter plot. On x-axis you have something, on y-axis you have another variable. Just look at the trend line. Trend line tells you whether there is a negative relationship between the two things or positive relationship. This basically tells you that turnout in 2024 basically resulted negative votes for both BJP and India Alliance. So turnout at the national level doesn't make sense. But once you do something, what we try to do is basically we divided India into 2 parts. States where BJP retained or gained in performance, which is states like Himachal, Uttaranchal, Gujarat, Gujarat, Chhattisgarh, Madhya Pradesh, Odisha. You have one kind of states, and then you have states where BJP did badly, UP, Rajasthan, to an extent Karnataka, that would be the second set of states. What do you see? That in states basically where the red one actually tells you states where BJP did well, there was a positive relationship between turnout and BJP's vote share. Whereas states where BJP did badly, turnout drop had a negative correlationship. So two sets of India seems to be behaving very, very differently. Then what's happening to the rural population and BJP vote share? Again, if you look at BJP win and retain states on one side and BJP lost states on other side, there is a positive correlation in the rural. So basically, in BJP win or retain states, more the rural a seat is, BJP is likely to get more votes. In places where BJP lost, more the rural a seat is, the BJP's vote share seems to be declining. And this is also affecting their ability to win seats. So strike rate is basically number of seats you contested and number of seats you won. So strike rate, if you won 90 out of 100 seats, your strike rate is 100%. And I divided rural population into 5 categories. And what it tells you in the first graph, that in states where BJP is doing well, there is a positive correlation between rural population and BJP's ability to win seats, but there is a negative correlation where BJP lost in states like UP and other places. Same is happening in SC population. So again, some of this data is old because census was done in 2011, right? So we have basically, so this is 2011 census on SC population or rural population. Hopefully a new census happens and we will do more new analysis. But this basically tells you that in 2024, BJP has a negative vote share if SC population increases. Whereas in 2019, it was a slightly positive relationship. What we know from survey data that since 2014, BJP's vote share among scheduled castes have been increasing, and that was also reflected in the 2019 overall data, but in 2024, there is a decline. And this decline is sharper. So there is an overall decline in BJP vote share by SC population, but this decline is sharper in states where BJP has done badly, right? So that's another big picture finding. Where did one important state, and I'll just take a couple of minutes to wind up, BJP's vote share in UP declined with SC population, with rural population that follows the national trend, but most importantly, there is a negative relationship between BJP's vote share and BSP's vote share. In fact, everyone thought that BSP contesting alone is going to divide opposition's vote and would help BJP. What seems to be happening, as in any constituency, if BSP's vote share is going up, BJP's vote share is going down. Meaning that once BSP is contesting in a constituency, some of its core supporters among Dalit communities or any other communities, they tended to stay with BSP rather than going for any other party. Last time, in perhaps seats where BSP had not contested, those seats had gone towards the side of BJP. And you will see a similar kind of patterns unfolding, third party presence even in West Bengal. The left and Congress vote share increasing is basically leading to a decline or is correlated with a decline in BJP's vote share. And we can go on looking at more data like this, but I wanted to have all my panelists and include everyone in this conversation. But just to conclude, because elections are now 72, our results are 72 hours behind. Next government is going to take oath perhaps on Sunday. The big questions for social scientists is going to be whether 2024 is beginning of a coalition era or it's just a blip and we will see a return of a single party majority. And that requires serious thinking, not just from social scientists, but also from political leaders, because they are going to make a judgment and their actions are going to be dependent on whether they think coalition politics has arrived or whether they think that we can still win single party majority. And so actions of both the Congress party and BJP is going to be dependent on how they read the emerging politics. Of course, there is going to be question mark on the stability of coalition government. To me, there is going to be much more fluidity in political situation. Every 3 or 4 months, we have assembly elections. In October, you have Haryana, Maharashtra and Jharkhand. In all these 3 places, BJP did really badly. If they do again not perform in some of those states, I think balance of power will keep tilting against BJP. But if they perform, then things can change. Another question, and where I would like our sort of like panelists to reflect, especially Harish, someone who studies these things, he's from JNU, whether BJP's social coalition has completely unraveled or it just has taken a minor hit, and there are options and mobilizational strategies that BJP and Congress can use to sort of like strengthen their base. And finally, I would like everyone to sort of like reflect on, for last 10 years, the Grand Old Party of India, Congress, was at the receiving end. They have done spectacularly in this election. Now, is the stage set for their revival, or this is just a small blip in their long history? So thank you everyone for patiently listening to me. Now I would like to invite Harish, Ruhi, Yashwant and Rajdeep on the stage, and we'll have a conversation. Hi. Okay, so let me start this conversation with Rajdeep, and since Rajdeep only gives me 30 seconds on TV, he has 3 minutes maximum to speak. Yes, so I'm like generous, Rajdeep. I would request all my panelists to be brief so that we can have a couple of rounds of conversation before bringing in members of audience. My first question to you would be any reflection on the data, how data matches to your travels on the ground, especially different states that you went to, and what kind of, not just like from election viewpoint, but what kind of social and economic anxiety you see building up in India?
Thank you very much, Rahul, and good evening, everyone, and great to be here. At the very outset, you've given me 3 minutes, so I'll try and use the best use of that time. I remember writing a book on the 2014 election, the election that changed India. I wrote a book on the 2019 election, how Modi won India. And honestly, in January, after the Ram Mandir Pran Pratishtha, me and the publishers had almost decided on a title hat trick. And this morning, when my publisher and I were sitting, we thought of another title, which I think really sums up this election. The election that was won by the voter. And if you had to put anyone on the cover, you don't put Modi, you don't put Rahul Gandhi, you put the Indian voter. This is the most extraordinary election in terms of what the messaging the voter has done. He's done multiple messages. It's not a single message. But if there was one underlying message, the Indian voter has no time for arrogance. If there is one message from Kashmir to Kanyakumari, and you will see that, not just in constituencies, you will see it in states. Naveen Patnaik thought, I can put my bureaucrat from, he's a Tamilian, and nothing wrong with being a Tamilian in Odisha, according to me, but it was used by the other side to suggest that Naveen Babu thought that he could decide his successor and the people would just accept it. Smriti Irani thought, yaar, ye kaun hai Kishori Lal? You know, kahan se aaya? And I thought that exemplified, in a way, what would happen. The person who defeats Rahul Gandhi by 50,000 loses to Kishori Lal by 1,60,000. In Maharashtra, Jod Tod ki Sarkar, you can break any government, you can do what you want, and you can run the state. I traveled through Maharashtra and I was astonished at the 2 words, and I actually saw this last year in May when I was in Nashik. 2 words that stuck in people's minds in Maharashtra, Gaddar and Khoka. And in this age of social media, you can go to a deep remote village and this young man will come, sir, Gaddarit. You don't have to be in the big city. to know that. You can go deep into rural Maharashtra and they would use words like Gaddar and Khoka. Khoka meaning, each Khoka means 1 crore. And the buzz was that they'd all been paid 50 crores to switch sides. Maharashtra voted in the way they did. Turn to Uttar Pradesh. The great Chanakya of Indian politics thought he would decide, who would be the candidates in Uttar Pradesh. It didn't really matter. This was Modi's election. There was a double engine. You could send someone like Kripa Shankar Singh, who had been the Mumbai Congress chief, joins the BJP only 2 years ago. Send him to Jaunpur, because aata hai Jaunpur se. And I'll never forget this. I was interviewing Kripa Shankar Singh, and I know him well. Nice guy. As he comes out, as I come out, one of the Karyakartas comes out, BJP Karyakartas, and says, "Do you really think, sir, wo jeetenge?" And I said, "Why?" "Sir, wo to bahar se aaye hain." The Karyakarta of the BJP in UP, and I think Amit Shah ji was overburdened. He was not just Home Minister, he had to decide candidates, he had to decide the strategy, he had to decide the organization. And somewhere I think that over-centralization and decision-making taking place in Delhi, I think affected them in the key battleground state of UP, where they took the voter for granted. And they thought that, and nothing exemplifies that better than Ayodhya and Faizabad, and the verdict that came there. When you think about it, na Mathura, na Kashi, hame chahiye Pasi. And there was a Pasi candidate first time defeating 3-time MP Lallu Singh in the very place where 4 months ago, after seeing the Ram Pratishtha, all of us were saying, and typically of television where you're looking for headline, done deal. Ab ki baar 400 par. And ab ki baar 400 par eventually turned against them, because when you do ab ki baar 400 par, you have to tell the voter what is ab ki baar 400 par about. बहुत हुई महंगाई से मार अब की बार मोदी सरकार. So that was linked to Sarkar. But when you said अब की बार 400 पार, it gave the opposition the opportunity to say that आप 400 ले रहे हैं, but 400 क्यों? Why do you need it? And that gave them the ये तो संविधान बदलेंगे, which was pure. For once the Congress beat the BJP at their own game of telling a lie well. But it was that, right? You created this fear, and there were a couple of BJP MPs who got over enthusiastic and said ki Samvidhan, Anand Hegde, Diya Kumar, all got enthusiastic. In fact, I thought if the TV channels had done a few more interviews of some of them, the BJP tally would have gone down further. But one final point, and which reflects from here. If the Congress thinks that they have revived, it's a mistake. If you think that getting 100, because you look at vote share across the country, and the Congress's tally in the last 3 elections is still not what the BJP's tally is in this one election. So the mistake that we would be making is overreading this verdict. If we overread this verdict and believe Modi's popularity has slid down, it hasn't. You ask why Varanasi, the margin came down. Simple. Modi still got 54%. The anti-Modi vote consolidated and came out with ferocity. And the BJP realized this after round 1. That's why you see the Prime Minister change his tack. Because when voter turnout comes down and the other side comes out with ferocity, you suddenly realize, what happens to us. And that's why you'll see the Prime Minister change tack after Baswara and suddenly brought in Mangal Sutra and other issues which were otherwise unrelated to Viksit Bharat. But net, Rahul, I would not overread this verdict. I think the Congress has made gains, and I think the voter has voted. I want a strong opposition. I want Modi, but I want Modi in check. ये कोई तानाशाह नहीं चलेगा. अब की बार सरकार चलाओगे, सबके साथ चलाओगे, because I think the bigger message is ये तो country मिली जुली है. Somebody sent me a lovely meme of the film Milli and the film Julie, and said अब वैसी सरकार हो गई है. ये मिली जुली सरकार है क्योंकि this is the greatest nation when it comes to coalition building. And the very fact that next time when a vaccine packet comes, the hope is that you won't just have one person's face, but you might have Nitish and Naidu also next to each other. So that, I think don't overread the verdict. Don't be complacent if you're the opposition and believe that you've suddenly miraculously revived. Yes, you've got a breather. Just one final point, since you are indulging me. For the last 10 years, this country has gone through bruising politics, bruising, polarizing politics. And like great Indian films, there's always a moment when you need an intermission. This election was the intermission. People want relief. ये रोज headline grabbing, some dramatic thing, something disruptive. People have decided, यार थोड़ा तो हमें भी मौका दे दो. Governance, थोड़ा रोजगार पे focus करो, थोड़े हमारे चिंता. And don't just tell me कि 5 किलो राइस देकर you satisfied us. हमें और भी कुछ चाहिए. I met enormous number of poor people who said, हमें पानी, you know, अब हर जल नल or whatever, you go 50 kilometers outside Baramati, which is otherwise very well provided infrastructurally, and you suddenly see people are struggling for water. The women are still walking kilometers as I saw them 30 years ago. This country has changed, but not changed fast enough. People's aspirations have changed. So instead of talking about how we are going to conquer POK, think about paper leaks. I think that's what the youth said. That was the message a number of young people. यार POK हो जाएगा. पहले तो paper leak तो sort का. अभी NEET exam देखो. Yet another time when the NEET exam is gone for a toss. So I think this is why, as I said, this is the election won by the remarkable Indian voter. There is no voter anywhere in the world who will vote the way they are. The same voter in Delhi who's probably voted for Modi will 8 months from now vote for Kejriwal. And who knows where else you will see this happening. Where else but in Odisha will the same voter who maybe in rural Odisha votes for Naveen once and then votes for Modi. This is just, therefore I think we should stop overreading this election and just celebrate it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Rajdeep. Yashwant, let me bring you in and let me start by saying this, that, you know, there are now, especially after exit polls, all kinds of conversation have started. And it worries me because you know, it gets reduced as an election night tamasha, and you and I and many others see polling data very seriously. And you have been saying this for a long time that, you know, if TV doesn't ask me, I don't want to do a seat forecast, right? But what seems to be also happen in this polls is that everyone overestimated vote share as well, right? Like BJP's vote share is 36 in the end, and vote share was estimated. Like, I think you were the lowest when you said 38, 39, others gone 40, 41, 42. Like those three states, what is it about UP that we couldn't read the mood, and especially once the polling has happened? See, in pre-poll surveys, I can understand that you project something and then like the entire election campaign unfolds, a candidate nomination happen and everything happens. But is there like the social scientist, the pollster in you, like has done some diagnosis of why we got it wrong and what we could do as someone who used this data a lot to basically bring down the temper? It's now all kinds of allegations are flowing against polling and pollsters and other things.
Thank you, Rahul. I almost feel like the student who got 100% marks in 26 out of the 28 papers and flunked in 2, and there is a big FAIL written in the report card. And I have always maintained, and thanks Rajdeep for mentioning it earlier as well, and I have maintained it all along for the last 15 years that, you know, polling's job ends at seat share, vote share projection. And this seat share tamasha is not really a part of a survey science. And given a chance, I would have stopped doing that 15 years back. But I have a 200+ team to feed. And if I stop giving seat share, no matter how good a friend Rajdeep is, he will stop giving work to me. You know, I'm being honest. I mean, I'm being right here, you know. If Rajdeep is more than happy to commission me a survey which stops at vote share, I'm going to be his biggest champion. Having said that, the methodologies that you see, when you look at the survey science, that India is not one universe. You know, we look at it like 30 universe, different sets of it. Okay. If any methodology of gauging the vote share or conversion of the seat share as well is working good in 26 or 27 of them, it should be working good in others as well. And to my problem is that we even got the vote share right. Say for example, Rajasthan, 50%. BJP actually polled 50% votes in Rajasthan. Congress polled only 37. So the drop 8-9% of the BJP vote which you just reflected over there, it did not go to Congress. It went to the rebels. So what I'm simply trying to say, from a vote share perspective, when you have a survey result coming in, BJP is polling 50%, Congress is polling 37%. How many seats in 25 are you going to give to BJP and the Congress? In your wildest dream, would you say that, okay, BJP and Congress will get equal amount of seats, number of seats? In a state which has given 25-0 twice, in a state where in 2018 BJP got defeated in assembly election and gave 25 within few months, and in a state where BJP has just won assembly election, 6 महीने में नरेंद्र मोदी ने क्या बिगाड़ दिया भाई? तो
especially when the vote share is
especially when the vote share is constant. Same is in Uttar Pradesh. Our overall vote share for that NDA is 45% static. With the 45% vote share, BJP has just won the assembly election. Same vote share. So obviously there is something else at play. So what I will try to do here, I will ask you, take Uttar Pradesh and Rajasthan, just एक उधर से ना टोकरी से उठा के 1 मिनट कोने कर दीजिए. फिर उसके बाद में जितने भाषण आपको इस मैंडेट की व्याख्या के मिलने हैं, वो सारे लगा के देखिए बचे हुए हिंदुस्तान में काम कर रहे हैं क्या? कोई चीज आपको ऐसी लगी जो बहुत ज्यादा सरप्राइजिंग है? महाराष्ट्र, me and Rajdeep, for the last 18 months, 3 MOTMs, Rajdeep, we remarked Maharashtra going down the drain. It's going down and down and down. Every time we went on discussion, there was a huge political storm in Maharashtra. And we both being the Farji Marathis, we also tried. His Marathi is better than mine, by the way. You
can't call me Farji Marathi.
यार छोड़ो, तुम कभी गोवा के हो जाते हो, कभी जहां जाते हो ना, एक इंसान मैंने देखा है, मेरा इस जगह से गहरा नाता है. He is the sophisticated version of that. I am telling you. Check it out on his post.
मैं पोलिंग के वापस
आता. नहीं, मेरा राजीव का चलता रहता है.
पोलिंग.
So it's like, so when you have this kind of a vote share contradictions, where a party is leading. Now, national vote share, that show, you remember, everybody was saying 40% plus vote share. I said, no, according to me, BJP is not crossing 38%. I said that. So this is what I can get. What I can tell you, now bring back the two things which were kept aside. UP and Rajasthan. Now the internal factions, internal fights, षड्यंत्र, माफ कीजिएगा, डेटा में ये सब नहीं आता. It's not my job. The journalist in me is open, and trust me, we have two teams. एक क्वांटिटेटिव टीम है, 200 से ज्यादा लोग हैं, साल भर पोलिंग करते हैं. You know it very well that we do the daily trackers. We do not do कि 5 साल में एक बार आएंगे. By the way, we should talk about that. कि 5 साल में जो आपको पोल ऑफ द पोल में नाम दिखते हैं, उसमें से कितने नाम है जो आप पहचानते हो, और अगर आप पहचानते नहीं हो तो उनके नंबर्स को सीरियसली क्यों लेते हो? We'll come back to that again. But when we do it on a daily basis, and we have a quality team and quantitative team, just like the reporters, they go back and do, and कुत्ते बिल्ली की तरह लड़ाई होती है सीट की कॉल लेने में, ट्रस्ट मी. एंड आई एम सिटिंग देयर एज ए जज और समथिंग लाइक दैट. एंड राजस्थान, माय कॉल टीम इज सेइंग, सर 8 सीट तो पक्का जाएगी. आई एम सेइंग जाएगी, बड़ी अच्छी बात है. एंड दे डू अ ग्रेडिंग ABCD. D is like आई एम नॉट श्योर अबाउट, एंड देन यू आर, so A is I am absolutely sure about. Problem was those 8 seats they had marked in C and D. I said, यार तुम पक्का बोलो तो मैं कर दूं, but vote share 50% है और 37% है. And they were like, नहीं, इतना बड़ा गैप है तो maybe we are over analyzing because there is no wave. So everybody is over analyzing the local factors. मेरा यूपी के जो टीम वाले कह रहे, सर बीजेपी 45 नहीं क्रॉस करेगी. हमने कहा वोट शेयर देख ले भाई, बता दे मेरे बेर. I mean, हथकंगन को आरसी क्या जो भी करना है कर लो. What has happened? Arithmetically, very quickly, I am telling you what my problem in UP was. UP Mahagathbandhan contested 80 seats last time. So now you will understand. You do survey, you put up a vote share, you see the swing. Where are these voters going? And you apply the swings on what? On the previous vote back. Right. Now the problem with UP was 40 सीट पे BSP का एप्लीकेशन हो रहा है, वहां पे सपा गायब है, 40 पे. So basically in 80 seats, we had one or the other factor as a big zero, mathematically speaking. We had no base in UP because they came together and now they decided they will be contesting apart. And this is the trickiest part, apart from the situation where you have any party contesting for the first time. Like when Aam Aadmi Party contested here, we got the 28% vote share right, but nobody could say kitna seat milega. No. So UP ka problem baseline ka tha, that there was no baseline for all the 80 seats, because SP and BSP, जहाँ BSP 40 सीट पे लड़ी थी, वहाँ पे इस बार का SP का डेटा जीरो था, जहाँ SP लड़ी थी, वहाँ BSP का डेटा जीरो था. So mathematically that was a problem, but bottom line is, at least given a chance, I will plead again to all the media people, everybody who commissions poll, sir, सीट नहीं है सर्वे का हिस्सा, माफ कीजिए, छोड़ दीजिए, वोट शेयर पे रोक दीजिए, और इसके बाद में जिसको जिसको एक्स्ट्रापोलेट करना है उनको करने दीजिए, मुझे माफ कीजिए.
Thank you, Yashwant Bhai, for that candid comment. From polling, let's basically, Ruhi is writing a book on women voters. She has been traveling across the country. So let's go to the field. In the run-up to elections, people were talking about women voters are going to be crucial to 2024 outcome. So far, the data indicates that they might have voted in favor of one party in one state or that kind of thing, but no big sort of women vote in any direction. What I want you to reflect on, Ruhi, did you hear different narratives on the ground when women were making their choices why they were voting, and whether they varied by state? Something on that would be very helpful.
Right. Thank you, Rahul. Rajdeep spoke about this being an intermission. I'm wondering if there's going to be a plot twist after the intermission, or is the storyline going to continue the way it was, because that's going to be interesting to watch. Rahul, before I answer your question, just one quick thing. I agree with Rajdeep on overreading the verdict. I think we've got so used to living in extremes, right? One extreme is where the Congress got down to such a low number, just a 40-plus number in 2014, that even 99 seems like a huge leap, like a spectacular performance for a party which at the end of the day is a pan-India party which ruled India for decades and decades and ruled many states for decades and decades. The other extreme is BJP talking about 400 par. Now, a third term, even with a reduced mandate at the center, is not a small feat. So let's not read this necessarily as a verdict against Modi and as a verdict in favor of the Congress, because as I said, two extremes, we need to keep those extremes aside and look at it a little more clinically. Coming to your question about the woman voter, now, I think you are right, there is a lot of conversation around women voters. There are lots of assumptions made around women voters, which direction they vote in, which party they vote in. Now, I think one thing I can tell you is that the most pragmatic voter is the woman voter. She's far more pragmatic, far more informed in a way about what is due to her, what is necessary to her than the male voter, and that's happening increasingly so because of various factors. There is a lot of access to information, etc., etc. Why do I say she's more pragmatic? Because for her, the esoteric concepts of religion and caste are no longer as important, as confining as they are for male voters. Now, as one woman voter told me in a village, she said, हमें सिर्फ इस बात से मतलब है कि हमारा चूल्हा कौन चला रहा है. So there are very, very pragmatic, immediate concerns that women voters have, and whoever's fulfilling those concerns are favorites for women voters. Now, in another panel I was in recently, someone said, but we stereotype women and we give them gas and we give them toilets and we give them pani, or yehi kyo de rahe hum women voters ko. It's obviously a very male way of thinking, because at the end of the day, that's the harsh reality. Women didn't have access to these basic things either, which is why now women are feeling more invested in the process, because they are getting things, basic things that were due to them, which they were not getting earlier. Do women vote differently in different states? Of course. I would say to a great extent, there is massive popularity for Prime Minister Modi among women even today. I think it's because there is this conversation he started with them through his schemes, through his welfare delivery, small things like even trying to register houses under the Awas Yojana more in terms of in names of the woman voter, woman member of the house, etc. So there is popularity for him, but wherever that popularity where that popularity gets challenged is when someone else talks to them in the same language. Look at West Bengal. Why did the BJP not do so well in West Bengal? Because the two strong points that Narendra Modi has, women and welfare, are Mamata Banerjee's strong points as well. Of course, there is something to be said about the consolidation of the minority vote, etc. But if you look at it as a larger emotion concept, that's one state where Narendra Modi failed to make an impact this time, unlike the last time where he seemed to have done reasonably well in the state elections as well. He couldn't, because Mamata Banerjee is talking in the same language, and she is so well entrenched in the state. Her schemes are already so well entrenched; they're reaching the voter that the one strong point that Modi had, his biggest strong point, seems to have failed there. So I think that's something, Rahul, that political parties going forward are going to start realizing, that if you want to do well in elections, you have to talk to the woman voter directly. And that is the game in which to beat the BJP. All this polarization, etc., I maintain that even in 2019, all that is secondary. What you give to the voter, and especially the woman voter, because she is transactional, she is aware of what she should get, that is very, very important. Just one more point, adding to Rajdeep's point about arrogance. Now, see, I think Narendra Modi's popularity graph right now in India, even among women, is there are two kinds of graphs, right? In states where his popularity had peaked, it's plateaued. So, say Madhya Pradesh or Rajasthan or even Assam, states like that. In states where his popularity had not peaked earlier, like Telangana, like Odisha, there it's on the upward trend. So the question for Narendra Modi and BJP should be that in states where it has plateaued, how does it continue to remain relevant to the voter? And that's where the arrogance point comes in, because what you are doing, what the party is doing, is rendering state leaders ineffective, relegating them to the periphery. Look at the states where the BJP has done well. Madhya Pradesh, exceedingly well, 29 on 29 seats, bettering its record from the last time, because Shivraj Singh Chauhan is a massively popular leader, and he continues to steadfastly remain with the BJP, unlike some other state leaders who are not, who perhaps not really playing along with the BJP. It's his popularity that has got 29 seats. It's not Modi's popularity alone, and make no mistake about that. Look at the other state where BJP has done, the NDA has done exceedingly well, Assam. 11 of the 14 seats, up from 9 the last time. Why? Because the Chief Minister, Himanta Biswa Sarma, is, keep aside his polarizing rhetoric, etc., I'm going to look at it clinically, as I said, remains popular, has a very, very strong hold over the state, has a very, very deep understanding of the state. Now look at the states where the BJP hasn't done well. Haryana, I meant. Why? You don't have a state leader. You just decide to remove chief ministers, make someone else chief minister. You want to control the state. Rajasthan. I mean, for the longest time, people didn't even know who the chief minister of Rajasthan was. You don't have a chief minister in that state who has a pan-state presence. And I would also count Uttar Pradesh in that conversation, not because Yogi Adityanath is not popular. He's very popular in the state, make no mistake about that. But because he was unhappy with the choice of candidates for about, I think, 35 seats. So he was also sidelined in a way in the run-up to the elections. So that kind of arrogance that you don't need state leaders, that is coming back right now to the BJP. It's something that they should understand, that Narendra Modi alone cannot be enough forever and ever and ever to win them elections, and state leaders are also very important, and that also ties up to the point about women voters, and I'll tell you why. It's because state leaders are, you're more there, right? You're always there in the state. There are state schemes that are important, and those schemes also often now cater to women. So you need state leaders who are talking to women directly and who are popular among women, because that is also very important. Again, I would tell you, for instance, Shivraj Singh Chauhan's Ladli scheme, Ladli Behna scheme is so popular that women there, I think, just want to vote for the BJP because they have that scheme. In Assam, the government's Arunodaya scheme is so popular among women because it's cash transfer that goes directly to the woman member of the household.
And in Bengal,
And in Bengal, of course. So, you can't just have a prime minister in the center which is talking to women and which is giving them schemes. You also need your state government, especially because you talk about this double-engine sarkar. You need to have strong state leaders who are popular among women, because women at the end of the day now are, as I said, thinking more practically and outside these boxes of caste and religion.
Thank you, Ruhi. Let me get Harish Vankhere. He teaches at Jawaharlal Nehru University. Harish has been writing on questions of social justice, Dalit politics, and many other such things. Harish, my question to you, especially looking at UP now, people have started saying that there is a return of mundle politics, right? Of course, given that this idea of ab ki baar 400 par on the counter offensive on ki reservation badal le liya jayega, I think it did have some traction. And my colleagues Yamini and Neelanjan, who were in the field, they noted something like this, that even if the question of Samvidhan is not in sort of like liberal framework of rights and other things, people have started using this term, and there is some sort of like meaning to how they're bringing it. So, one, do you think this played a role in this election? And is it a temporary phenomena or something that's like sort of like unfolding in our politics is going to make ordinary voters much, like they care much more about some of these questions of social justice, empowerment, and constitutional framework?
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rahul. Of course, I will answer this question, but before doing that, let me kind of start with the general analysis on the current elections. Like, for that matter, my father suggested yesterday that probably this is the first time that nobody is unhappy with these election results. Everybody is happy. That if you ask BJP, if you see BJP, probably though they have not got the majority mark to 72, but the BJP workers and the activists are happy that Prime Minister Modi is again, and now coming up with this kind of a big leadership now, that he has again become the Prime Minister. So that makes them happy. Second, the Congress is happy because we know that though it has not performed well in 14 and 19, but this time just the numbers, see the numbers, almost 100 seats, emerging almost like a big opposition party makes that party happy. Parties like RJD and Samajwadi Party, for that matter, as Rahul said, that this election is seen as the election that the mundle politics has come back to the national discourse. Stalwarts like, for that matter, Chandrababu Naidu or Nitish Kumar or Mamata Banerjee, or for that matter Uddhav Thackeray, they all retained their power in their own states and suggested that they will have a major play in the national politics soon. So this kind of an analysis, that it is a kind of happy-go-lucky for everyone, there is no unhappiness amongst the opposition and even within the government, I think somewhere it hides some of the major factors that this election has come up with. And such kind of a popular celebration, somewhere what I said hides the main story of this particular elections. Mainly, just see that who we have defeated. The opposition in India, mainly the India bloc, was fighting one of the most difficult political battles in the history of Indian democracy. For that matter, the BJP is a party which is largest in the world today. It is the richest party in the world, with kind of a massive mass organization that it had everywhere, and the kind of religious institutions and multiple other organizations that often promote that particular party as the significant party in Indian democracy, and of course the huge cadre-based political organization, what they call the disciplined political organization across India, not just one or two states, across India. And that party organization can only be compared to the Communist Party of China, such a powerful, single-handedly governed party. Third, the leader, like Ruchi was suggesting, that such an iconic and godlike figure heading a political party, Narendra Modi, the world's most popular party, is leading BJP in these elections, and the spokesperson of what they call Hindutva politics or India's future economic superpower. That leader is basically hailing the party. Third, of course, if you can see that the way the state institutions continuously been helped, continuously come to help to the BJP service, CBI, ED, and many other public institutions, are including the election commission. That was basically part of what they call the committed bureaucracy for a political party, and creating a kind of an uproar around that this party is going to win. Further, the national media for that matter. It is, of course, completely surrendered to the BJP's political agenda. It is aggressive, over-the-top campaign, what they call the 360-degree model of marketing and PR exercise, spending almost crores and crores of rupees on advertisements. So with such kind of euphoria, the party which is coming with this kind of a very powerful ideas and leaders and organization, that party has defeated in this election, that such kind of party failed to get a majority. And therefore, this is a new story for us. Last 10 years, it was not a story, but this time something extraordinary has happened. And probably in that way, the opposition has done dramatically well in this election. And therefore, probably this is also suggested that probably this election is an election where there is no wave, and that is a problem, that a party with such a kind of grand credentials is failing to create a wave. The BJP almost failed to create a wave around what they call 400 par. It became a negative slogan, Ab ki baar 400 par, or Modi's guarantee, or even for that matter, the construction of Ram Temple. Nothing worked in favor of BJP. All these slogans or ideas basically suggested that probably the BJP is making fool of the voters. Further, I thought that in response to these slogans and ideas, the opposition played a very clever role, and there was a subtle or silent wave called the wave of the social justice, mainly in these 2 or 3 states. What in most of the discussion, these 3 states are prominent: Uttar Pradesh, Maharashtra, and Bihar. These are the 3 states where you will find that the social justice politics is playing a very, very significant role. In 2019, you will find that at least these three states, the BJP have more than 130 seats. If you also include the seats of the NDA MPs, this time the number come down to almost 45, and or if you include the allies loss, it is almost 60. And in Maharashtra again, the number of the seats come down to almost to 30. So this is a loss, a huge loss for the BJP. And it was suggested that probably in all these 3 states, Maharashtra, Uttar Pradesh and Bihar, what often been called that BJP is a new party called a subaltern Hindutva party, that particular idea has failed. That probably the lower OBCs and the lower Dalits have not voted for the BJP significantly, and because of that, the India Alliance, the NDA Alliance has not done well, whereas the India Alliance has done something significant. And probably in the earlier discussion that has come up, that why certain sections among the Dalits and the OBCs have shifted its vote share to the NDA Alliance. For that matter, in UP it was suggested that the Yadav Muslim and the Dalit combination did well for the India Alliance, and in Maharashtra, the Maratha, Muslim and the Dalit combination fared very well for the BJP. The third part is, of course, the nuanced way the way Dalits have voted in these elections. And Rahul was showcasing in his graphs that probably there is a kind of a shift among the Dalit voters vis-a-vis towards the India Alliance, but probably in Maharashtra, the Dalit voters are not just shifted, but there was a always very powerful party in 14 and 19, the Vanchit Bahujan Aghadi. You will find that this party's vote share has completely come down this time. It was 8% of vote in 2019. It has come down to 2% this time. And that 8% of vote has shifted, I believe, to the India Alliance, and that is a kind of a significant shift. So again, in UP, the BSP's vote share in 2019 was almost 20%, 19 point something percent. This time it has come down to below 10%, 9.37% this time. So it was significant loss. And probably this Dalit voters have shifted again to a secular alternative called the India Alternative. And therefore, the UP's result is somewhere different. Probably that has not happened in Bihar because there was already 2 significant Dalit parties. LGP, Chirag Paswan and Manjhi, and of course the CPI-ML again emerged as a Dalit party in Bihar. So there was no possibility that the Dalits can shift their vote share from the NDA alliances, and therefore probably it shows that Dalit voices in or Dalit support base in this election has nuanced way. In UP it has taken a different shift, Maharashtra distinctly, and in Bihar a very different.
Harish, if I may intervene, let me ask you a pointed question here, which is, do you see, and of course it's like like looking into the future, do you see this as a temporary shift or something fundamentally is changing? You know, for 10 years, we saw consolidation of Dalit or shift of Dalit vote towards the BJP in these states. Now, do you see this as a beginning of like a shift away, or it's just one election, we don't know, we'll find out?
I believe that we don't know about the Dalit shift.
Okay.
That it may be a temporary move this time.
Okay.
As I said, that probably in Maharashtra they were unhappy with the VBS assessment that the BB will contest independently this time, and it was not part of the India alliance. So that has angered many Dalits, and there were, of course, public meetings where they swear that they will not vote for the VBA.
Okay.
So that can, therefore, I thought that it's a temporary move. That probably if VBA comes again with a better political solutions, the Dalits can go back to the.
Thank you. Sir, please. एक थोड़ा देर हमको बात करने. So Rajdeep, you ended with you know, a caution for the Congress party, and I'm going to ask you something which is you know, like, is it that for 10 years we thought that BJP is going to do great, and it's still stopping us to basically look at the kind of changes that Congress has made? I was thinking of writing a piece, and then my editor said, "क्या कांग्रेस अच्छा कर रही है क्या?" मैंने कहा, "पता नहीं, मुझे नहीं पता है." Then I somehow published that piece in Hindi, but in Hindi it got published as question mark. I thought, like, there were 5 things that Congress has changed about itself in last 1.5 years. I don't know whether those changes are important or not, but think of it like, good or bad, at least one of the Bharat Jodo Yatras had some mobilizational effort. There is at least some settlement on the leadership question where Kharge has more autonomy in decision-making power. There is a little bit more clarity on the ideological line. And then, you know, like, I think they managed somehow to get alliances in a couple of states, right? So, seeding ground. So, given that Congress is making some of these small changes, do you see that there is some sort of like positive momentum that will get built after this kind of result, especially what Harish pointed out, that what Congress or the opposition was fighting against a very heavy odds, and if it has improved in one direction, of course, if they misread it, there are chances of reversals, but do you think now there is a solid ground to build up?
Rahul, I think that is the real question of this election, and I think I had told you this even before the election, that this Congress can be the story in a way of this election. What happens next to the Congress? Congress is a bit like what Mark Twain would say, reports of my death are grossly exaggerated. You know, every time we write off the Congress, it comes up in some new form, sometimes, as I said, extraordinarily in this election. I remember speaking to a number of people once in Chandigarh last week, and we were adding up the Congress's vote, and they were barely coming up to 80, 85. I didn't think they would do so well in Maharashtra. In fact, I thought Congress was the Kamzor Kadi in Maharashtra. I had always thought the allies will pull up the coalition. Actually, just the reverse happened. In Vidarbha, in direct contest between BJP and Congress, Congress won. The one statistic that I kept telling people to look for, in 2019, 178 seats, direct contest, Congress, BJP, Congress won just 12. This time they won almost 25% or 30% almost of these direct contests, particularly in states like Rajasthan, Haryana, Maharashtra. You know, Congress is like this brand. It's pan-India. So you can go to even the small village and they sort of recognize the Congress. So there's still large brand recognition. And I think you have to give Rahul Gandhi some credit. I've often said he's never missed an opportunity to miss an opportunity. But I think in the last couple of years, with the Bharat Jodo Yatra, with consistently trying to sort of mobilize on the ground by setting a narrative of inequality. Forget caste census. I don't think caste census was really getting traction, but inequality, this belief that there is concentration of wealth in a few people's hands, and a majority of the people have gone through very tough times in the last 5 years. I think we underestimate the pain that people have gone through. COVID, falling incomes, rural distress, unemployment has created another India where people were looking for someone who might at least talk their language. And I think that was the strength of Rahul Gandhi. I don't think Rahul Gandhi has been able to sort of rouse the Congress organization, but he's been able to give it a narrative. And I think it's important to give any organization that is on the back foot a narrative for it to revive. I still believe in the next 10 years the BJP is the principal pole of Indian politics. So BJP is not going anywhere. But the Congress has a window of opportunity created. The mistake would be misreading it and getting arrogant about it. The opportunity lies in the fact that you've now got 5 state elections in the next 18 months. I'm not including Jammu and Kashmir for a moment in that. But if you look at Maharashtra, Haryana, Jharkhand, Delhi and Bihar. In all these 5 states, the opposition, and I just don't include the Congress here, the opposition has a unique opportunity to try and show us that we are not a single party, single nation, single leader state. The voter has already shown it in the general elections. So I'm going to see whether this also replicates in state elections. If they are able to do it, if they are able to give the same autonomy that they seem to now give state leaders, if they are able to consciously build up state leaders. Don't forget, the 2 states where the Congress is in power, they lost out. Think about what would have happened. Just think about this. Karnataka, if the Congress had got 18 and the BJP had got 10 seat shift straight away. Telangana, which the Congress won by a big, relatively comfortable majority 5 months ago, 8-8. Imagine if it was 12-4, as many pollsters predicted. The BJP down by 15, Chandrababu Naidu would be eyeing Prime Ministership. Or Mallikarjun Kharge. And look at somebody just mentioned Odisha, a state which the Congress used to be dominant in. Once the Congress pushes to number 3 in a state, it finds it very difficult to come back to number 2. And that's happened in Odisha. 10, 15 years ago, the Congress was the natural opposition in Odisha. But here Naveen Patnaik declines and guess what? The BJP comes in. Without Odisha, the BJP would be struggling even further. They would be down to 220. So the Congress has huge opportunities. They've lost out in states like Assam, where they used to be a dominant party when Tarun Gogoi was there. They've lost out in Odisha, which used to be a natural Congress state. They seem to get complacent when they are in power, as Karnataka and Telangana to some extent show that you sort of play your typical factional politics. Isko kaise girana hai. Congress spends far too much time scoring, fighting with each other rather than fighting the rival. That hasn't changed. There are still congressmen who will do everything possible to first ensure that they are supreme in their own district or their own state rather than realizing the big picture. And my fear is that would be the mistake of misreading this verdict for them. If they think they've arrived, boy, you haven't arrived. Narendra Modi is not going anywhere. Somebody told me, वो coalition कैसे चलाएगा? मैंने कहा यार 90s में मुझे कहा कि यार Modi is not a mass leader. Sushma Swaraj, others will be the mass leader. Modi turned out to be the mass leader. 2001 he went to Gujarat. People said, will a Pracharak be able to become chief minister? वो chief minister बन गया. Then when he comes to Delhi, people said, yeah, Modi, Gandhinagar ठीक है, Delhi करेगा, कर दिया. Then they said, will he understand international relations? G20 कर दिया. Modi is the ultimate political tactician. He will now, whatever he needs to do, Naidu and Nitish will be given a phone call, pappi, jhappi, jo bhi dena hai, kar dega, to survive. But, if he loses these state elections, particularly Maharashtra and Haryana, then there are people within who are waiting for an opportunity, because self-respect at some stage, sabka koi to atma hoti hai. And some sense of your self-respect, which has been constantly denuded and destroyed, tends to rise. I asked one of the leaders who I think has some of that self-respect in him, what will you do now? He said, wait and watch. You see, politicians, the one thing this election has taught me is that patience is the greatest virtue in politics. Look at Sharad Pawar, 83, lost his symbol, lost his party, lost his MLAs. Now he says the MLAs want to come back to me at the age of 83. And the classic Indian story, which is why I never write off anyone, no party, not even the Congress party, for all its faults, is what I saw at Chandrababu Naidu's house. 8 months ago, few of us were invited to his house. About 30 people were invited, barely 5 of us landed up, maybe out of old times of the United Front. 2 days ago, there were 500 people outside. And Naidu, who looked tired when I met him 8 months ago, was looking like he was 21 all over again. And that's what power does. And I hope that the Congress realizes it, that they have a historic opportunity to open, the democratic space has opened up again. This election, as I said, the interval has opened up the democratic space for all of us to have popcorn, coke, to step back, smile, all be happy. But you really want to change India, you're going to have to start working much harder. Because the BJP has realized its mistakes, and the BJP will not make the same mistake twice. But you might just do that. Maharashtra is your big game. If they can win Maharashtra this time, then I think Indian politics will truly start changing post-October.
Thank you, Rajdeep. Yashwant, let me ask you corollary of this sort of like thesis, not on Congress, but on BJP. You've been saying this, that BJP remains one of the most agile parties, you know, and they make all kinds of changes to be able to sort of like take advantage of even the sort of bad situation. Like even in this election, I think they had identified the new territories for them. There was some expectations of losses in the core areas, and so new territories were identified. It's another matter, not all kinds of gains were made. Given that now we have seen, no matter what, BJP has suffered setbacks, right? And big setback in UP. What kind of changes do you expect BJP is going to make in next 3 to 6 months to be able to turn the clock back? Or do you think that the losses are so big, or some of the social coalitions, like, you know, have been sort of like not unraveled, but cracks have appeared in a way that it would become harder to fill?
Well, Rahul, it was like looking at UP, it was almost like feeling like Kalyan Singh 2.0. You know, 1998, if most of you, if you remember.
58.
You know, 35 seats. 99 was 58. 98.
96, 98, 50.
Yeah. Something
99,
like that. You know,
29.
they just crashed. He managed to crash the seats, and he managed to do that because he had a huge ego problem with Vajpayee. So even at the peak of Vajpayee's popularity, there was Kalyan Singh who managed to puncture the BJP ka gubbara. As simple as that. It's like history repeating itself. You know, we are looking at the same kind of thing. What BJP does now has a lot to do, even though I know many of my friends say, even Mr. Nadda said, हम संघ से बड़े हो चुके हैं. संघ ने कहा ठीक है फिर खुद ही कर लो. So those who know BJP or those who want to understand BJP, what BJP does is not important. What you have to think what Sangh does or RSS does is more important for them. Okay. What I feel, for the first thing, I may be totally wrong. I mean, Rajdeep knows these things better than me. But I think RSS would like to take the organization back. They will say, Sarkar tum chalao apni, tumhari marzi hai. But ये organization नाम की चीज़ है ना, ये हमारी चीज़ अब हम देख लेंगे. So I think that is going to happen. Whether it will be Shivraj Singh Chauhan or absolutely unknown pracharak from some complete unknown place who would be popping in as a thing. You know, I would be very surprised if what have been going on if continues in BJP as an organization. Okay. I will be very surprised, number one. Number two, you mentioned about the new places where they have cracked in, you know. And yes, they have 2 states where they had a contest not with the Congress or the opposition, but with their old alliance partners, and they have proven their point. They have voted almost double than Akali Dal, right? And they have almost polled at par with AIADMK. So they are no more smaller players. You know, अब वो बराबरी की बात होगी जब भी assembly election में, जब भी, because if you add up Akali and the BJP vote share, Punjab changes. If you add up AIADMK and BJP vote shares, even Tamil Nadu changes. So you have to be very, very, and now Tamil Nadu, they got a guy because they need a face. Everybody needs a face. If you don't have a face, you just can, there is a limitation to what you can do.
So let me, basically what you're saying is now the dominant BJP has to go back to its 2014 of Vajpayee years and behave like, in a way that they need more allies. What happened between 2014 and 2024, that BJP's expansionist impulse sort of like moved allies away. So now in this situation, if they ally with ADMK or SAD or get more players, then they are much, so
it will
organization, coalition, these kind of things
It
will happen.
will happen, Rahul, but there is a difference. 98, 99 era of Advani, Vajpayee coalition era, in 98 BJP polled 20% in United Andhra Pradesh. People forget that on their own, but they gave it on a platter to Babu. Because of the coalition, they wanted to somehow get TDP in, win seats and make a government. वो जो एक नीचे की भाई साहब आप हमारे कोलिशन वो वाला जो हिसाब किताब था ना, many of the states with their ex-alliance partners वो बराबरी की बात करें.
Okay.
That's the big difference that's gonna make, and they can play the long game because इन लोगों के साथ में क्या है ना कि ये लंबा सोच लेते हैं और उसके लिए 10 साल का प्लान बना करके चल लेते हैं. You know, that's how they go about it as a being a organization or a cadre based or whichever way. And the amazing ability of the RSS Tantra to pull out one leader after the other. You know, if you think of it, on the opposition side, when you look at the Congress, you अभी तक हम खोज ही रहे हैं राहुल के बाद क्या.
Okay.
बाकी तो छोड़ो यार, राहुल के बाद में प्रियंका भी नहीं आती, जबकि प्रियंका डबल पॉपुलर है राहुल गांधी से. In all the data, I mean, अगर मैं हाथ उठा दूं that you know if Rahul Gandhi is speaking in the other hall and Priyanka in this hall, where the half of the population is going to be, no brainer. लेकिन इनके यहाँ पे लाइन लगी हुई है. आप देखो ना, मोदी इज पॉपुलर नो डाउट, बट इफ यू आस्क कि बीजेपी के पास में मोदी के बाद में कौन, उसी की लड़ाई में तो यूपी घुस गया यार. तो उनके यहाँ प्रॉब्लम ऑफ द रिचेस है.
Okay.
That's what I feel.
But just very quickly to add to that, look at the flexibility. You know, we thought this was the India alliance. The India alliance over the last year lost allies. These guys gained allies, and those allies have helped them win this election. Chandrababu Naidu is a good example. The same person who called you a terrorist 5 years ago, you're happily sitting next to him doing his wawa. You know, saying that he's, you know, the CEO of Hyderabad suddenly. Look at Kumaraswamy. Someone whom you called corrupt and said this is a dynastical party 1 year ago when you were fighting Karnataka. That alliance with JDS made a huge difference this time in southern Karnataka. It enabled them to win 3 to 4 extra seats. Look at Chirag Paswan. You threw out his luggage from his house and went with his uncle 3 years ago. Then you go and hug Chirag Paswan, tu mera beta hai. You see the body. You see, this is politics. On the other hand, the Congress still, and I could see it, you know, you still believe that you, Sharad Pawar once put it to me, and you know, it was a word which then became a headline. He said, "Abhi bhi aapko lagta hai aapki zamindari hai. When the lands have gone, you have to be more flexible in today's politics. You have to embrace people. You should, you know, whether you have to sort of, Mamata Banerjee is your equal today, and you've got to reach the 3 allies, SP, Mamata, and DMK have as many seats as you. But will you give them the same stature on the high table, or will you only line up your chosen few? That has to change. That mindset has to change. Modi realizes what's happened, and therefore suddenly, very quickly, and it was classic Modi. The day the speech was made on the election victory, he never spoke Modi Sarkar. He said NDA Sarkar. Within 6 hours, the man who's talked about Modi ki guarantee all through the election is talking NDA Sarkar. That's political flexibility. That's strategy. That comes with experience. And the Congress needs to do that. Kharge has that ability. Are you willing to give him the autonomy to stitch those alliances and go and reach out to people? Prakash Ambedkar just mentioned. You get Prakash Ambedkar on your side to this 3-party alliance, the BJP cannot win Maharashtra. Are you willing to do that? Are you willing to give him those extra seats and say, look, for me, Maharashtra winning in October matters even if I get fewer seats? So I think flexibility, Rahul, is something which the BJP under Modi, and that's why underestimate Modi. And we tend to overestimate those who perhaps say that they are actually talking of coalition politics, but actually are unwilling to actually do real coalition politics.
Thank you, Rajdeep. Ruhi, just drawing on some of the last points you made, and this has been my banter with Rajdeep, which is that, you know, like women voters are also Dalit voters, upper caste voters, urban voters, rural voters, young women, old women. So welfare or transaction can't matter to everyone, right? A college-going young woman might have very different kind of concerns versus others. So, like, do those identities also play out on the ground when they think about who to vote? And second, you know, like, while like it seems that Congress needs to do a lot, But during the Bharat Jodo Yatra, we saw images of Rahul Gandhi basically reaching out to women, hugging them. In some ways, he was also trying to create some kind of emotional appeal for himself and his party. Do you see there is some traction to that? And what is this sort of like diversity of different women and what they want with the political system? And is there any angst you saw in that we still don't, like, we vote, but we still don't get tickets to contest or get represented, make ministers and all those kind of things?
Right. Rahul, I'm always scared now when I'm asked questions about women voters because my publishers will call me up tomorrow and say, who's going to read your book if you talk about everything on public platforms? So it's a bit of a tricky terrain for me. But no, coming to your first question, of course,
Rajdeep will give you some advice on what to say and what to hold.
I must tap him at the end of the conversation. No, so, of course, the woman voter...
I am eating pasta, hashtag read my book.
So, of course, the woman voter is not a homogeneous group by any stretch of imagination, just as no voter is, right? When we talk about the Muslim voter or the Dalit voter as well, they are not a homogeneous set of voters. There are obviously differences of class, geography, lots of things, right? But there are trends that you see in these voters. It doesn't mean that everybody votes the same way. I mean, I am a woman voter. Yamini is a woman voter. I can see Sheila ji there. She is a woman voter. But I'm sure all of us think differently, all of us have different aspirations, have different political preferences. So when you ask that question, of course there is a difference in terms of demography, in terms of geography, in terms of class, in terms of caste, in terms of age groups, in terms of how educated you are, how educated you're not. But there are certain trends that one can spot, which is why I said that women think less within the very strict domains of religion and caste as compared to men. Women think more about what is due to them. Now, it doesn't always mean that only welfare is due to you, right? Safety could be something that's a big concern for women. What is a big concern for women are jobs for themselves, because a lot of women say we get education, we manage to somehow study, but we don't have jobs. We don't get the kind of jobs we want. So there are many concerns that women have which differ across different segments of women. Just to give you one small example of why I say, and this is obviously just an anecdote, but there are obviously many such anecdotes that I have come across, which is why I say that women think a little more differently as compared to men. In Uttar Pradesh, in Bulandshahr, I met this woman voter. In fact, I put out her video on Twitter as well, so you can go and see if you're interested. She basically talking to her about her voting preferences, what she wants, what she doesn't want, etc. And she said, and this is something she pointed out herself, I didn't ask her caste. She said, मैं ब्राह्मण हूँ, लेकिन मुझे सबसे पसंद मायावती जी हैं, बहन जी हैं. मुझे क्या लेना देना कि उनकी जात क्या है, मुझे क्या करना उस चीज़ से. मुझे वो इसीलिए अच्छी लगती है क्योंकि उनके शासन में यहाँ की कानून व्यवस्था बहुत अच्छी थी, उनके शासन पे बहुत अच्छी पकड़ थी, और क्योंकि वो औरत है वो हम औरतों को समझ पाती थी. वो मेरे लिए बहुत ज़रूरी है. मुझे क्यों समाजवादी पार्टी नहीं पसंद है, क्योंकि उनके वहाँ गुंडागर्दी बहुत थी, और योगी जी तो जब देखिए राम राम करते रहते हैं. राम का इतना सोचेंगे तो काम का कब सोचेंगे, हमारे बारे में कब सोचेंगे. So women voters do think in a more pragmatic way. So which is why I said that when you think women voters like the BJP or like Prime Minister Modi, it's not because of the Ram factor or because of Balakot or Pulwama or national security or China, etc., etc. It's because he's talking to them directly with his schemes and initiatives. And make no mistake, that's very important to women, whether it's about mudra loans given to women, whether it's about a gas connection given to women, whether it's scholarships. Which is why I said in states, it's very important for the BJP to do what some of its state governments are doing and talk directly to women. Just one last point I want to make, and this is unrelated to women voters, because as I said, there are limitations to how much I can talk about that.
Don't worry. Now you've given one anecdote, people would buy the book for other anecdotes.
Yeah, there are many more anecdotes. Please don't think that was the only anecdote I have. So, no, just one more thing I'd like to say is, in this election, Prime Minister Modi did not get to do what he loves to do and what he excels in doing, which is playing victim. कभी किसी ने आपको बोल दिया मौत का सौदागर, कभी आपको किसी ने चाय वाला बोल दिया, कभी किसी ने बोल दिया चौकीदार चोर है. Every election he's got a reason to play victim, and that really appeals to the voter because he has this image of someone who's self-made, Kamdar versus Namdar. This election, the Congress played it smart, did not bungle up, did not give him a reason to play victim, and that is something that adds, when he does that, it gives a fillip to the BJP campaign, and that's something that was missing this time. So that's a very important point, and I think Prime Minister Modi will be looking to become victim in the next election.
Thank you, Rohit. Harish, last question, and then I'll bring members of audience. In fact, like two short questions. This result also shows that parties that were not part of NDA camp or India camp, right from South, ADMK, BRS, YSRCP, BSP, you just can count them, all of them basically lost. Are we in an era of polarized politics that you have to be part of two nodes, two narratives, otherwise you're going to get squeezed? And within this, if this is going to be polarized, then how do you see future of sort of like social justice politics or Dalit politics, where we are also seeing no signs of revival of BSP?
Yes, sure. Like probably if you see the Congress is functioning this time, I think it has almost become a social justice party. Speaking about constitutionalism and secularism, so that kind of newer political agenda is attracting a lot more Dalits and the lower OBCs towards the Congress side, and because of that, probably the possibility that Dalit politics will emerge by its own independently, like BSP or for that matter in Maharashtra, the VBA, that possibility is now shrinking, and the possibility is only with the alliances now. That if you are not part of the bigger alliances, national alliances like NDA or India, the possibility of independent Dalit politics will emerge and can gather that kind of momentum that is very small today. And therefore, the LGP in alliance with the BJP is doing well, and of course in Tamil Nadu VCK with another alliance in the state level is doing better. So further, probably the new kind of a language that Congress is now implementing, mainly what they call the Nehruvian socialism kind of an argument, in combination with Ambedkar's idea of social justice. A new kind of language it has provided, which is now consistently attracting the Dalits and the lower OBCs, because of which the Congress is in better position to attack more of the marginalized communities. And this is the better future. And therefore, this possibility that an independent Dalit politics will emerge by its own, I believe that it is not possible today. The way Mayawati has organized its political organization now, or the way she is almost inactive in most of the elections, and the way her organization almost docile today, in that condition, probably the emergence of PSP is very limited. And therefore, probably this kind of language which Congress is now coming up, probably people from the marginalized community will pose more faith in Congress's politics. Why? Because they are speaking a language which was spoken by the parties of social justice.
So now we have like two clear sort of like nodal formation, one on center left and one on the center right. Yes. And do you think that is going to remain more stable, or if coalition politics arrive, we'll have more movement of parties?
Well, of course, there is always the possibility that the social justice politics by its own, like in Uttar Pradesh, for that matter, Akhilesh's arrival with the bigger slogan of Mundle, I think that has shown that there is a possibility of revival of social justice politics. Bihar, Tejasvi Yadav, the way he has engaged and brought up his politics in a very powerful and popular manner, there is a possibility. But similar possibility with the Dalit politics. I think I am little hesitant to argue that BSP will have a re-emergence, or for that matter, VB will have a re-emergence.
Great, thank you. Please, ask pointed questions, 30 seconds, so that I can get more and more questions. My friends are there; they will pass you the. So let's start at the back in red shirt. And since it would be great if we also have women also asking questions, not just
Check. Check. Can you hear me? Yeah.
Yes.
So a couple of questions. So first,
only one question per person.
Okay, I want to just ask about how you interpret the Tamil Nadu election results, because the vote share of BJP grew from 3% to almost 12%, but at the same time, the number of seats they contested in also grew almost nearly 4 times. I think they contested around 5 seats in 2019. So yeah, so
Tamil Nadu election, yes, ma'am. And then we'll take 2 questions from this side.
My question is for Rajdeep, sir. As a woman, how should I deal with the everyday fear psychosis and performance of violence of RSS when it comes on employment and even critiquing them publicly? Thank you.
Sir, please.
So one of the things that's not been mentioned is that gods have been very kind to Modi ji. We've not had a drought in the last 10 years, which is very rare. And when you say, what does the future hold, I think we should expect a major drought in the next 5 years. And the question to you, Rajdeep and Rahul, is that do you expect Modi ji to become more subdued, have ministers who are more moderate, softer faces, or do you expect the same kind of vengeance going forward?
I'm waiting for his phone call. last minute. फिर इसके बाद will come this side. Sorry.
Just short two questions. Short. The
अरे
first
मन
is
में
to
काम चला लो भाई.
अच्छा ठीक है. The first is to Rahul. In the 2022 elections in UP, you conceptualized that the category of Labharthi was the main vote bank because of which BJP won. I mean, I just wanted to know what happened to Labharthi in 2024. I mean, it's just evaporated. It's not in the news. What happened to that? The second is the question on survey method. I mean, if I ask a counterintuitive question right now, would the Indian voter have voted in the same manner if all opinion polls that gave 400, 350 and made this clarion call in the Indian media day in and day out, would the Indian voter have voted in the same manner? Would the tally would have been just 240 for the opposition, or would it have been very different? So our poll and analysis
Okay,
needs
got
to
your
take
point. Let her ask one question and then we'll take. So yes, thanks.
Hello, sir. My name is Shreya Furadar, and I wanted to ask you a question. Many people are alleging that to some degree this election was rigged. Some people are alleging. Because they are saying because EC was appointed by the government itself,
Sure.
so they are alleging that. And I want to ask you this because of UP, everybody is discussing UP. I want to thank sir because they were defending the farmers' protest and how they were being called anti-national by the mainstream media. There is a silent voter that I think there was in UP who were not ready to say it out loud that they were not ready to vote for the BJP. So I think there were a lot of people who were afraid to say that they were not voting for BJP. Do you think that's why the pollsters got it wrong?
Okay. So silent. Okay. Let's try answering. So Harish, let me start with you. सर आप अरे सर ऐसा मैं आपको अगला सवाल आप ही से सबसे पहले आपसे शुरू करूंगा बस एक बार वरना भूल जाएंगे ना जी अगला सवाल आपसे
No, nothing much for me, but I thought that what the future holds for Indian democracy, probably the simple possibility of arrival of the deliberative democracy for that matter, a fearless dialogue between the stakeholders, especially bringing back the issues of common people like security, one of the issues. So probably the center of discussion should not be on the desires and the dreams of the great leader, but the people's concern. That is one. Second, probably a renewed deliberation on secularism and social justice, which is probably lost in last 10 years, and providing some kind of a solace to the religious minorities, mainly the Muslims. The third is, of course, that we should be content that for another 5 years, there will be no Hindu Rashtra, and we will be kind of living in a state which is secular, socialist, democratic republic. So probably that is the better hope.
Thank you. Rajdeep, you want to answer? There was one direct question to you.
No, the direct question I'm going to get Rohit to answer because I think it was about women, it was about RSS, and I'm sure she, in her research, perhaps...
But her publisher will call.
No, but there was one question which was about, I think, the rise of moderate leaders. Will we now see moderate leaders re-emerge within the BJP? My own sense is that Mr. Modi will position himself as a moderate. At least for the next year. And if he were to win by some chance Maharashtra, Haryana again, then you'll have really Modi 3.0, with all its pre-interval splendor that we saw, someone who sees himself as semi-divinity now. That's not going to go away in a hurry. So let's not, as I said, let's not overeat this mandate to believe suddenly the moderates have won out and the extremists have lost out. There is a message from the voter, but I think it's more a message for an interregnum after a period of bruising politics. So I'm not yet willing to believe. I want to see who becomes the next Home Minister of the country. Or does the President, I think that will be that will give you a sign, because there are clear signs that there are those, and CPR probably knows it better than most, that, you know, am I going to suddenly knock on your door and say that, you know, please show me your whatever, your balance sheet, and
that is already in public domain.
That's already in public domain. So I think that will be one test when the cabinet comes out, the kind of portfolios that are distributed. Now you can't decide all the portfolios on your own. You will have to also share some of the pie with both within your party and with your allies.
Ruhi?
So I'll take your question first, since Rajdeep passed that on to me. You know, as women journalists, we face constant trolling, constant threats by an ecosystem that has become so emboldened because of the kind of numbers they saw the BJP get, right? And that is a reality that we've all learned to live with and ignore. You have to do your work. You can't really get bogged down by that. And I'm hoping that with this kind of mandate, that ecosystem calms down a little bit. I've already seen over the last 3 days, on Twitter, at least on social media, they have calmed down a little bit. Suddenly, out of the woodwork, somewhere Congress trolls are crawling out. Completely, so many.
You know, I had a reporter yesterday for asking a question to Rahul Gandhi, which he unfortunately replied, I thought, rather rudely. And because I defended my reporter, who, poor thing, has been covering the Congress at a time when nobody else wanted to cover the Congress, I had journalist friends speaking a language of trolls on Twitter. And it astonished me, and it just exemplifies the polarization that's taken place over the last 10 years. We still have the residue of that continuing, which is why we all need to look within. Whether we are on WhatsApp groups or on Twitter, it's all very well to, the leaders at the top will do what they have to. But when we also become polarizers, that's very worrying. Sorry.
Yeah, but I do appreciate your point that there is that ecosystem which is far more vicious and far more toxic when it comes to attacking, women who speak against you or people who speak against you, especially women. So how do you deal with it? One has to deal with it at their own level. I mean, I don't think there is any big answer to that question. The other thing is to just keep doing your work and speaking what you feel and speaking what you think is right, because if you get bogged down, you get bogged down, right? That is the end of everything. So the whole idea is to continue speaking the way you do, continue doing your work, and let them just keep shouting at the end of the street. How does it matter? I'll just take the liberty of answering her questions, because it was a woman who asked the question, so I'm going to take that liberty. Elections being rigged, look, obviously the Election Commission has not exactly covered itself in glory in recent times, right? But let's not make any mistake that on the ground there are poll officials working day and night to make these elections fair, make these elections transparent, and make these elections happen in the heat of the completely crazy heat of India. So there is a lot of work that's going on the ground. I think because of the way the election commissioners sitting in Delhi behave, their biases, their lack of action against, certain what can be viewed as model code violations, that the entire election commission gets a bit of a bad name. I think that becomes a bit of a sad thing. And also rigged होते तो भाई 240 में क्यों रुक जाते? मतलब rig करके तो आप 400 पार कर सकते हो.
और जैसे हरीश ने कहा, सब उनके पिताजी ने कहा सब खुश हैं.
हाँ, सब खुश हैं. So I don't think elections are rigged. Also UP silent voter. I think that's maybe you want to answer that question.
Yes, Yashwant on the silent voter and Tamil Nadu, if you have anything.
So one comment to जिन्होंने 2 सवाल पूछे. यार, हिंदुस्तान का वोटर ना ओपिनियन पोल देख के वोट नहीं देता. अगर हिंदुस्तान को वोटर ओपिनियन पोल देख के वोट देता तो ओपिनियन पोल गलत ही नहीं होते. सीधी सी बात है ना, इट्स सेल्फ डिफीटिंग. और वो राजदीप सरदेसाई को भी सुन के वोट नहीं देता. तो ना मीडिया को भी सुनने की जरूरत है बहुत ज्यादा, कि हमें मीडिया में जो हम लोग हैं, कि हमारे कारण वोटर का मन बदल रहा है. हम पोलिंग के लोग हैं, हमारे कारण कुछ हो रहा है. इतनी औकात नहीं है हमारी. हिंदुस्तान का वोटर जो है ना, वो अपने हिसाब से चलता है, और आज से नहीं चल रहा है, तब से चल रहा है. सोशल मीडिया भी नहीं था. 77 का इलेक्शन आज भी मैं मानता हूं दुनिया के इतिहास का सबसे बेहतरीन उदाहरण उसका. ठीक है ना? सो लेट्स स्टॉप एट दैट. लेट्स नॉट क्वेश्चन पीपल्स वर्डिक्ट. रेस्पेक्ट द मैंडेट. सेलिब्रेट दिस मैंडेट in the same way you celebrated 2004, 2009, 14, 19 and 24. While celebrating the mandate, respecting the mandate, don't put yourself in front of the mandate. Take the mandate as it is coming to you. Number 1. Number 2, silent voter. होता है, लेकिन साइलेंट वोटर जो होता है वो वर्ल्ड ओवर कॉन्सेप्ट है, और ये प्रूवन वो है. जहां पे पॉलिटिकल वायलेंस होता है या कम्युनल वायलेंस होता है, जैसे इंडिया में आपको बताऊं, हमारे रेगुलर ट्रैकर्स में भी सब जगह पे नॉर्मली डोंट नो DKCS as we say, don't know can't says in the, it's about 7-8% on a routine basis all across India. In West Bengal it is almost 21-22%. All right? So West Bengal is a polling problem for us. What happened is that many a times you have to distribute that don't know can't say in the same proportion that you are getting in a normal situation. But when you also have a feedback from the other portion कि नहीं ये जो चुप बैठा है ये इसलिए नहीं बता रहा है क्योंकि डर रहा है तो किससे डर रहा होगा? You only think of that those in power, उनसे डर के नहीं बोल रहा है, ठीक है? ऐसा जरूरी नहीं कि हो, आप हो सकता है कि ये सोच करके कि अपोजिशन का वोटर है और चुप बैठा है डर के, आप ओवर एक्सर्ट कर जाते हो अपोजिशन को वोट को, जो कि वेस्ट बंगाल में इस बार हुआ. पीपल एडजस्टेड दैट साइलेंट वोटर थिंकिंग दैट दिस इज एन एंटी ममता वोटर विच इज नॉट सेइंग एनीथिंग. ऑलराइट, सो दीज आर द निटी-ग्रिटीज. लेकिन इसके अलावा कोई साइलेंट नहीं है सर. आपको एक बहुत छोटी सी चीज बताऊं बहुत संक्षेप में. वी इन द सर्वे इंडस्ट्री कॉल्ड LOI, लेंथ ऑफ इंटरव्यू. ऑलराइट, कितनी देर का इंटरव्यू है. Our costing and everything is calculated on that because one researcher can do these many interviews in a day. So what would be the cost and like that. हमारी प्रॉब्लम ये है कि हिंदुस्तान में लोग बात बहुत करते हैं. मेरे डेली ट्रैकर का जो LOI है वो एक्चुअली 10 मिनट है और एवरेज है 17 मिनट जो लोग बात करते हैं. बिकॉज पीपल नेवर आंसर यस नो कांट से. मोदी जी को पसंद करते हैं, अरे भाई साहब बहुत अच्छा ये किए. अरे भाई साहब बता दीजिए हाँ या ना. नहीं लेकिन वो गड़बड़ बहुत किए थे तो मतलब ना. नहीं लेकिन हमको सही लगते मतलब हाँ, लेकिन हमको इस बार ये गड़बड़. सो यू सी पीपल लव टू टॉक एंड इफ यू हैव एनी कुछ भी आपके मन में आपको कभी 1% भी संदेह लगे कि हिंदुस्तान के लोग बात नहीं करते, प्लीज मेरे ऑफिस आइए डेटा सेंटर में. रोज हम लोग 1511 भाषाओं में करते हैं. जिस भाषा में सुनना चाहते हैं सुनिए और सिर पकड़ के बैठिए. कभी कभी आप पेट पकड़ के हंसेंगे, कभी आपको रोना आएगा क्योंकि इतनी ज्यादा लोग. क्योंकि कई बार जब बात होती है ना, एक तो क्या है कि सी वोटर से कॉल करने दे इमीडिएटली रिलेटेड द मीडिया और वो अंत में पूछते हैं सर ये कहां दिखाया जाएगा, कहां छपेगा. दे फील दैट देयर वॉइस इज बीइंग हर्ड एंड देन दे स्टार्ट टेलिंग देयर ट्रैजिक थिंग्स. मतलब घर में उनके जो हुआ कोविड के समय जब हम कर रहे थे, कितने लोग मरे, जिस तरीके की बातें थी. पीपल टॉक, पीपल डू शेयर. साइलेंट केवल एक ही जगह पे होता है जब उसको डर लगता है फिजिकल सिक्योरिटी का और उसको ये नहीं समझ में आता कि आप जेन्युइन है, आप जो फोन कर रहे हैं या आप आए आप पता नहीं किस पार्टी के हैं. इस बार तो एक बड़ा मजेदार चीज हुआ राहुल. वो जो मजेदार चीज केवल इतनी है कि इतनी जगह पे इतने सारे सी वोटर के सर्वे चल रहे थे कि हमको भी नहीं पता था. इतने लोगों ने सी वोटर के नाम से सर्वे किए हैं कि हमको भी नहीं पता था. फिर हमको एक नंबर देना
आपके डेटा सेंटर में सही वाला आ रहा था?
नहीं, हमारे डेटा सेंटर में तो हमारा वाला आ रहा था. लेकिन बहुत सारे लोगों ने बहुत सर्वे किए.
अच्छा, let's take one more round of questions. So
yes sir, sir my name is
येलो. अरे वो उसको बाद में अभी तमिलनाडु वाला करते ना, अलग से मैं बता. मैं आधा घंटा यहाँ रुकूंगा, ठीक है? Let him ask and then her.
And sir, my question is to Rajdeep sir.
Yes.
Sir, sir, you said in this election the voter mattered, sir. Sir, don't you think that voter mattered in 2019 and 2014? So, given the discrepancies of the FPTP system, like BJP has secured the more or less the same vote share in 2019 also in this time also. And do you think we need to move beyond the FPTP system, given the discrepancies in the UP election vote share and seat share and in Rajasthan also? And sir, my question to you is, sir, I have one question. Sir, what is the relevance of the vote share in the FPTP system when there is so much of discrepancy in the seat share? Does it make any relevance, sir, to study the vote share then?
Absolutely. Brilliant question. Thank you. I mean, I must say this is the most legit question today that I have heard so far.
अरे नहीं सर, ऐसे मत करें.
नहीं, बाकी लोगों को बुरा मानने दीजिए, बुरा मानने की कोई बात नहीं. The most legit. बाकी भी legit है. मैंने most legit. मैंने
ठीक है. Let's take her question.
Yeah, greetings everyone. So, I just have the question that is BJP failed on what exactly they think as their forte? Whether it's, ma'am has mentioned that they have the welfare and the women, but this time they were not able to put their ideas, like in the 2019 election, they fight on that we have given Ujjwala, we have given Jan Dhan Yojana and this, but this time there was only communal line statements that has been get famed. The second thing is the social media. They were the one who has started to connect the social media with politics, but this time it seems that the social media has an anti-incumbency trend, whether it's just a particular YouTuber spreading a particular ideas and all. And the third thing is that it's the social engineering, which seems like a perfect forte of the BJP, but they have failed in the UP, and something which has been taken over by the SP, which has worked in their favor. So is BJP has failed on their own ideas that they taken as for granted as a forte of their own?
Ananya, sir in red, Hanji.
I just want to build on what Rajiv was saying. I'm from Odisha. So clearly in some way we're responsible for whatever is happening in the country today. So I don't know whether to apologize or whether I should sort of take a compliment. First, to put it in perspective, I was with an Uber driver a little while back who's a Bihari, settled in Ghaziabad, and the question actually in a way is to all of you. So I said, I'm from Odisha. He says, "Saab, wo kaun sa state ka district hai?" Right? So that is as real as like last week. And I was very pleased that the Prime Minister, or rather Mr. Modi as the leader of the party, didn't say Jai Shri Ram, he said Jai Jagannath, Jai Jagannath, Jai Jagannath, 3 times. Most people probably don't know, who Jagannath is. Unfortunately, I still discovered that. The question is very simple. In our state, and people like us who live out there, and this builds on the point about women and their benefits, MP elections and state elections, people don't see the MLA and the MP the same way. The BJP has barely won 76 seats with all their effort. And if you add a weak Congress which barely campaigned, if you total up the BJD and the BJP, they're at 71. The 20-0 BJD is an aberration. And Pandian is not the only reason, there's certain other reasons. So how do you read this? How do you read a situation where a party has a thumping majority as far as the MP election is concerned, and it's a bare majority as far as the assembly elections are concerned? So that's the second question. The last question is related to this. No, it's related to this point. Because I don't think you all have brought it up, which is the role of basically migrant workers. UP and Bihar is consistently polled well below the neighboring states. And if you track the migrants in other parts of India, the same people, does that have an impact on these results? Because Odisha has a lot of migrant labor who came back to vote, unlike other states.
So whoever wants to, whichever question you like, just pick an answer.
I'll just take his first question that, you seem to sort of give the voter the credit for this election when the voter virtually voted in terms of vote share very similarly in 2019 and 14. But the fact was that, as you see, we are a first past the post system, so you can't get away from that. But you could see in 2014 a genuine mood for change from Kashmir to Kanyakumari. I wouldn't include Kashmir, but in most of the country, particularly north, west and central India, you saw the mood for change. You went out and you recognized people wanted change. In 2019, particularly after Pulwama and Balakot, you saw this sense of ghar mein ghus kar mara, and people were enthusiastically sort of cheering the Prime Minister. This time, I think the voter, you can call him or her, more importantly, her, the silent voter, were far more transactional and were looking to see what is in it for me. And I think this is a trend increasingly across the country because people have realized, promise bahut karte hain, what do they actually deliver on the ground? So I think, therefore, I think it was a more normal election where the voter, seat by seat, area by area, was my MP there during COVID. One of the important things about UP, which we didn't discuss, the BJP, for various reasons, repeated a lot of their MPs and paid a price for it. You see, there is some advantage to be made because actually it's very difficult to to be an MP in India. I was staggered. Bangalore rural has 30 lakh voters. 30 lakh. Which one individual can solve the problem of 30 lakh voters? So it's extremely difficult. On one hand, your demands are increasing. Your vote size, the constituency size is very large. And therefore, perhaps the voter is far more willing to experiment and change. And that's exactly what happened in this election. Because in these last 5 years, number of MPs and MLAs went missing. And you'll see, I think we've had a lot of turnover of 22 ministers lost. What better indication is there of the fact that in a way this was a mandate against the way things had gone over the last 5 years? We can have another debate, of course, whether first past the post is the better system and you want to change that. But that's a wider debate, I think, that needs to be had on another day.
I think I'll take that question about women and welfare that the lady there asked. So, you have to understand, and I've been saying this since the beginning of these elections, the first state I traveled to was Assam, and I said that in Assam and going forward in every state, voters have a recency bias, right? And voter memory is also short. Now, all these schemes that we are talking about, Ujjwala, Gramin Awas Yojana, toilets, all these come from the previous term of the government, not this term, the term before that, between 2014 to 2019, right? So they have run their course. That's why I keep saying the BJP needs to reimagine its welfare story, and it needs to give its state governments more power to be able to come up with new welfare stories so that they can appeal to the voter on a more continuous basis. About the communal polarization part, that is at the heart of BJP's politics. Hindutva has been at the heart of BJP's politics. Prime Minister, even when you're sweeping an election like Uttar Pradesh in 2017, you will talk about Shamshan Kabristan. So that defines their politics, and I don't think that is going to change. All this Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas sounds good, but it doesn't. They don't even practice this within the party. Party mein bhi to kisi ka vikas nahi hone dete except the top two people. So really, these are just slogans that the BJP gives, and don't expect that to change. Communal polarization that the BJP does will always remain a staple of its politics.
Yashwant, any answer to any question?
Yes,
You don't have to.
I don't have to. It's just that उड़ीसा में बीजेडी को ज्यादा वोट पड़ा है, सीटें बीजेपी को ज्यादा मिली हैं. फर्स्ट पास द पोस्ट सिस्टम, राइट?
I think assembly में. But
BJD has polled more votes than the BJP in the assembly election. Yet yeah, exactly. So Naveen Babu, I mean, it's unfortunate. I feel sorry for him. If he was in a better physical condition to attend more rallies, I don't think he would have been defeated. It is just that, unfortunately, he could not physically move around, and this Pandian campaign thing, the outsider, worked in that way. Still, in a defeat, he polled more votes than the BJP.
Sir, अभी बात करेंगे आराम से.
No, I'll just take the social engineering question. Like the earlier two elections, 19 and earlier 14, the idea that the BJP becomes such a massive party because of the support base of the low Dalits and the low OBCs, what they call the subaltern Hindutva politics. Probably this time that has not worked, man.
Okay.
Probably it is the issues of inflation, unemployment, welfare, and the poverty eradication question. That has basically challenged the BJP, and that became the major question this time.
Last round, one question from there, and one unanswered. I think these two questions, and then we'll close it.
Hi, I have a question for Dr. Harish. You expressed concerns about BSP's revival. So do you, in the near future, anticipate BSP joining the India coalition? And if that were to happen, do you think it would compromise the Bahujan movement to some extent, or will Congress's new focus on social justice complement BSP's mission of Bahujan justice?
My question is related to Aam Aadmi Party. Actually, nobody is
talked about that.
Nobody is talking about Aam Aadmi Party. Recently it got national party status, and in this election, the way it has performed. So, what will be the future of Aam Aadmi Party? Number one, and where it will stand between India Alliance and the NDA, because recently they have decided they will contest Delhi election independently, and in Punjab they have contested with each other. So where Aam Aadmi Party politics is going?
Great. So Harish, first question is to you.
Right.
You both can answer.
No, as I said, that probably the revival is a difficult task. As I said, that probably the leadership, the political acts, and the ideological merit of that party has really plumbed down, and basically because of that, the revival is kind of a difficult task today. Congress, as I said, that now utilizing the same language of social justice and emerge as a new mobilizers of the Dalits and the marginalized communities, and therefore probably regional outfits which are basically talking about social justice, they are gaining major attraction from the Dalits, and probably BSP will be there, but its revival will be a difficult task, I believe.
You have something to say.
आम आदमी पार्टी कम से कम आपने पूछ लिया, क्योंकि मुझे बहुत दुख हो रहा था। मेरे हिसाब से विपक्ष का जो प्रदर्शन हुआ है वो दरअसल केजरीवाल के कारण हुआ है, एंड आई एम सीरियस अबाउट इट। उस बंदे ने जेल से बाहर आती पहली चीज क्या बोली, ये मोदी जी खुद के लिए नहीं मांग रहे हैं, योगी जी को हटा रहे हैं। एक्चुअली में यूपी में जो चीज डैमेज किया है ना सर, वो यही डैमेज किया है, ठीक है ना। सो one thing is clear, people in Delhi or Punjab or anywhere do not look at Aam Aadmi Party as a national alternative. It is a local regional party in a different way. So they are not looking at, I don't think Arvind Kejriwal or Aam Aadmi Party is now being looked up as something which can be a national alternative. Now that the Congress has got 99 and Rahul Gandhi ji is now like gung-ho about that कि हाँ मैं लेके आया हूँ, और तो अब वो मामला उनका वो ठंडा हो गया। लेकिन बंदा तो गजब खोपड़ी है भाई, आप कुछ भी कहिए, मतलब यू नो इन दैट स्मॉल 2 days 3 days गैप वो बाहर आया जेल से निकल के, वो उसने 2 दिन तक बीजेपी सफाई देती रही। कैन यू इमेजिन, हवा में उछाल दिया उसने, 2 दिन तक सारे लोग बीजेपी की सफाई दे रहे थे उसको। सो ही हैज दिस अनकैनी हैबिट एंड नॉट दिस हैबिट, द एक्सपर्टीज of irritating the BJP, which no other opposition leader has. No other opposition leader has. So I am glad that you said the name, because he deserves that due credit of you know putting the cat in the among the pigeons as far as the Uttar Pradesh politics is concerned.
Just to add very briefly to what Yashwantji said, look, the Aam Aadmi Party had managed to hold its own in Delhi in assembly elections in all kinds of Modi ways, right? I always say this, in India, if there are two politicians who are very much like Narendra Modi, with the same connect with voters, understanding the voters' pulse, the same smartness, street smartness, it's Arvind Kejriwal and Mamata Banerjee, and which is where Modi always finds it difficult in states, because he has found his match in these two. And make no mistake, Arvind Kejriwal may not be a career politician. He obviously started from scratch, but he is the biggest political story of India of the last 2 decades. It's not Narendra Modi's rise. It wasn't Congress's fall. It was the kind of party that Arvind Kejriwal managed to build from scratch, and that should tell us something about the kind of politician he is.
Great. Thank you, Harish. Rajiv has gone, Ruhi and Yashwant Bhai, for your time. Thank you, everyone, for staying with us 2 hours. This means a lot to us. I would also like to thank my CPR colleagues, including CPR Chairperson Dr. Gopinath, CPR President Dr. Srinivas, and former President Yamini Iyer for being here, and everyone, most of my colleagues, Arnaz, Arnesh, and Ananya, helping me to organize this event. Thank you, everyone. We'll be hanging out. If you have questions, we'll be happy to answer. But thank you so much for staying with us.